My name is Jill Phillips and I'm the creator of Whose Shoes, a popular approach to co-production. I was named as an HSJ 100 wildcard and want to help give a voice to others, talking about their experiences and ideas. I love chatting with people from all sorts of different perspectives, walking in their shoes. If you are interested in the future of healthcare and like to hear what other people think, or perhaps even contribute at some point, Wildcard Whose Shoes is for you. So hello and welcome to another episode of Wildcard Whose Shoes. And on the day I publish this episode, it will be the day before my 70th birthday. I wondered how to mark this momentous event on the podcast, and I thought, who better to speak to than Sian Lockwood, who has recently started her Oops blog, which I absolutely love. Outspoken Older People Subverting. I want to be one of those. Perhaps I already am. I don't know. That wasn't meant to be the script.
I think you are.
Do you think? Sian is also co-founder of WIGO, When I Get Old. You may remember the episode I recorded with her entertaining friend and partner in crime on this topic, Angela Catley. Sian is 71, and here I am on the cusp of 70. Another decade quickly passed. So what does it feel like to be in your 70s? I feel like a bit of a fraud, as I won't be 70 until tomorrow, but I'm going to ask Sian, and we'll see where the conversation leads.
And what a question that is. So...
We're going to have fun on this one, Sian.
It's uncharted territory, that's what it is. So I think part of the reason I started the blog was to chart for myself the many unexpected and sometimes wonderful things that come with just being a bit older. But it is uncharted and it's so varied. There are days when I feel 35. Actually, I feel 35 in my head the whole time. And then I look at myself in the mirror and realize I'm not. But there are days when physically I feel about 120 and other days when I'm, 70 and other days when I feel a lot better. So it's quite variable, I'm finding. And what is really interesting is the way other people see you. So I've got a lot of people, including my husband actually, now start to talk about old age. That I'm old, they're old, we've all got things wrong with us. You end up having dinner party conversations which are entirely about ill health with people of about the same age, which I'm resisting.
Yeah, it's very easy, isn't it? Get drawn into that.
And my children see me as somebody to protect now.
Do they? Yeah.
And that's wonderful. I mean, it's lovely that they love us and they want to make sure we're okay, but they're worried. You can see it. And of course, you become invisible to a lot of people. So I was on a train yesterday, coming back from Leeds, and full of students. And it was fascinating that people just look straight through you. And I think that's something about how old age can be seen in this country. I don't know is that coherent, Jill?
Yeah, it is. Why do you think that is? I mean, you're on a train. Why do you feel invisible?
I don't know, actually. I think it's because when I was younger, I was used to making eye contact a lot with people.
Yeah.
I'm a chatty sort of a person, and I like chatting to people on trains, and so I'm used to starting the chat with eye contact and a smile and all that. And for the students, bless them, just their eyes skated over me.
Right.
And I really noticed that yesterday. And I mean, everybody's in their own world. They are interested in the people they're interested in, which is people their own age. But I do think there's something about people's anxiety about old age, which makes it hard for them to see an older person.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. And I think when you're young, I mean, I can remember some outrageous things. I remember when I was 16 and my brother had a 19-year-old girlfriend, and I thought that was pretty old.
I know.
And I think remembering things like that, yeah.
Mm.
And do you know what old really is?
What is
It's
it?
10 years older than you are now.
No, I know. Older now for me, actually, older now for me is 15 years on. So I think 85 is, you know, I'm expecting to crumble a bit when I'm 85.
Right, 15, yeah.
But it's also, it's also, you do start to see the end, don't you? And I think that's one of the other interesting, for me, one of the interesting things about being older is recognizing I'm not going to live forever, and that there
Yeah,
is an
yeah,
end that is approaching. And that can be really good because it focuses your mind and it makes you get on with things and do the things you want to do while you're still able to do them. But
yes,
it's just an odd time to be in, because when you're young, the world stretches ahead of you, doesn't it? It goes on forever,
yeah,
and then that just and for me, Jill, like, you're not retired, and I am, but for me, retirement brought that horizon closer
right,
because while I was working, I was too busy to think really about age or anything apart from the job. But
yes,
once I retired, that there was nothing between me and the kind of the final end, which isn't gloomy. I'm not being
yeah,
morbid. It's just reality. And it made me determined that I wasn't going to waste a minute of the time that's left to me, however long that is.
yeah,
So we've done, a lot of people do a lot of traveling when they're retired, don't they? We've done some traveling and gone to some places, but it's also wanting to, I don't know, love the people you love and give time
yeah,
to your friends, and it's also, that's where WIGO came from, because I thought there is an important campaign with WIGO and nobody else is going to do it, so Angela and I will do it. But that came from a sort of recognition of time short, so you need to use it.
yeah. And it's such an important campaign, isn't it? So when I get old is actually relevant to all of us, some a bit sooner than others, but
Yeah.
when you're young, like you say, you don't think about it. And just coming back to what you were saying just then, I think the other one, I mean, you were talking about when you retire, and as you say, I haven't got there yet. I'm still pretty busy with Who Shoes and all the stuff I do in the podcast, as well as life. I think the other big one is when your parents die, and
Yes.
I was very lucky in that my parents both died old, but when that happens, I've heard it described as kind of like a roof over your head has gone. And
Yes.
I think you become that oldest generation, which is quite a responsibility, I think, within your family.
And you're right. I mean, my mum died 6 years ago now, and she was 92, so she lived to a good age. She lived with us for quite a lot of it over her last year,
Right.
and she was living with dementia, so it was hard for her to live by herself anymore.
Yeah.
And her dying was incredibly difficult. And it was partly that. It was just thinking, oh, right, okay, so I'm the old one now. And the children saw it a bit like that
Yes.
their grandma had been the older person and now suddenly I was. And I'm fairly sure they started to get protective at about that point. Not because I needed it.
Yeah. I mean, everybody bumps up a generation, don't
It
they, in a
does.
way?
It does. Yeah.
So for them as well, they haven't got those two levels above them. They've only got their parents. Yeah.
Yeah. And looking after Mum was a huge privilege, actually. And we were very lucky because she kind of descended into a puddle of love, really. And she didn't really know me. She didn't know anybody by the end, but she did know she loved us. And
Right.
that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So it was a real privilege. But it was also sad that her last year was like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So both of my in-laws had dementia, and we had a lot to do with looking after them, and they had a completely different experience of it, one from the other. Thankfully, not at the same time as each other, but, a very, very different experience. So these things are so individual, aren't they?
They are, they are. And I think my experience with Mum partly informed WIGO because I was so furious at how other people
Yeah.
treated her, about the services that were not there for her, about all the promises that were made. We were looking for, when she was living at home, we were looking for, a care agency. She funded her own care. And they make all sorts of promises that they don't deliver. So it's going to be consistent care, match with one or two people. And actually, it was 12 people a week. And it wasn't safe. So it's just partly why she
No.
came to live with us, because I could just be there and make sure she was both happy and safe. And it was interesting that when she came to us, the house wasn't suitable really, but she came and her place was in the center of the kitchen. That's where she had her chair she was comfortable in. And the sort of life revolved around her, and she helped where she could. She held my daughter's baby first after the baby was born, and
Oh, wow.
her job was holding the baby for quite a long time after that. And she really wanted to feel valuable. And
Yeah.
actually, within our household, she was, but she wasn't seen like that anywhere else. So she went to a
No.
day service. I'm going to rant if you're not careful, Jill, but she went to a day service which
Yeah, have a
treated her
rant.
like a toddler. You know, they did crafting activities and Easter bonnets and Christmas hats. And she went to it, bless her, because she knew I was still working, so I needed to know she was okay. So she did go to it.
Yes.
But it was demeaning, I think, for her, looking back.
Yeah.
And the hospital, I talk about it in the Ups blog, the hospital, when she broke her leg, there were two nurses outside her door saying, well, we don't need to worry about physio with her because she is 92. So getting her back on her feet isn't that important.
My goodness, that's outrageous. Yeah.
And what they got was a very angry daughter, and she got the physio she needed, and she was back walking again. But it was,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there was so little out there that was appropriate.
And I can see why you'd be so angry, having spent your life really with,
Yes.
as I understand it, shared lives and community catalysts, deliberately helping people have better lives and,
Yeah.
better quality of life. So it's hard when it's your own mum.
It is hard when it's your own mum. But I hadn't properly known in my heart how bad it was until, because most of my
Right.
working life was, enabling people to have choice of really good local things that would help them live really great lives. Mostly, though, with a focus on working age adults. And it was only when I retired, when I had the experiences with Mum, and when I started to talk to older friends as well, that I realised the kind of ageism that lies in the whole of public discourse about older people. There's a
Yes.
thread of ageism that runs through that. There's ageism that is in commissioning. It's cheaper. So somebody with an equivalent level of need who is a working age adult will get more money allocated to them if they are publicly funded than an older person with that level of need. So people with cognitive impairment, for example. So you've got that. You've got the way providers, even the most glitzy of the providers, and we've got some pretty glitzy providers in Harrogate, create a sort of hotel atmosphere, but there's no expectation that older people have anything to give, have any purpose, are loving human beings who want to carry on doing the things they enjoy doing. There's none of that. It does make us mad.
And contributing, volunteering and helping with younger family members and all the things
Yeah,
that older people
yeah,
very commonly do. It needs to be valued. And it's interesting as well that a condition like dementia typically doesn't qualify for continuous healthcare funding.
it doesn't. It's seen as a social, it's not seen as a long-term health problem, which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah. My mother-in-law actually got continuous healthcare funding 2 weeks before she died, which wasn't really all that helpful. And the battle to get it while she was in
Yeah,
hospitals takes you away from the time you actually want to spend with the
yeah,
person. It's
yeah,
a process set up to make you fail.
yes,
Whereas, if you've got cancer or something like that, it's much more easy to get it when you've got severe needs.
yes, yes, it is. It is interesting, isn't it? And I think the other thing, my whole working life has been focused on communities and what people in communities can do for each other and how do you help that more of that happen.
Which is what's brought us together, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And the organisations that were really great for Mum were not services.
Yes, I can believe that.
So they were the local church where she was able to, she was given, I would say given jobs to do. That sounds patronising. It wasn't like that. So they used to do a lunch, and Mum was the greeter of new people because she had a lovely smile and she was kind. So she felt great there because she had a purpose. And it's simple little things like that, isn't it? That are the difference.
I think purpose is everything, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah. And that doesn't change just because you happen to be older.
No, no. One of the challenges of retirement is creating your own purpose, I think.
So how do you find purpose, Sian? I think again, when we get to our age, you start to think in terms of legacy, whatever that means to different people, whether that's for yourself or for your family or for your work. What do you think about any of that?
Well, when I retired, the day I retired, I thought this is going to be terribly difficult because I'd created Community Catalysts and I'd loved it and
Yes.
nurtured it and fought for it and all that. And then, so walking away from that, I thought was going to be dreadful. And it wasn't really, because it was the right time for me to go. It was better that somebody with new energy came and led it.
Yes.
But it did leave me with a kind of gap around purposefulness. And I think I'd made a lot of mistakes in the 6 months after I retired, in that I took on all sorts of, trying to fill the gap and carry on being
Right.
what I saw as a valuable person. Um, so I joined boards that I'm not a board person, Jill. I hate boards. So I joined boards.
Yeah, I hate boards.
I took on responsibility just to create purpose, really.
Yeah.
And then I managed to realize I was being stupid and sort of shed all that and then started again,
Right.
really, after 6 months. So, I mean, purpose is partly about relationship, isn't it? So I'm part of the childcare for my grandsons, and that gives me a great sense of purpose. I live with my daughter, son-in-law, and grandsons, and I keep the house going
That's
for
nice.
them while they work, and that's also purposeful. I've got animals. I've always found delight. I'm not sure it's purpose, but it's certainly delight in animals. And I've slowed down a bit, and actually that's been quite good for me because I've noticed the things I didn't used to notice because I'm not moving at lightning speed like you will do, Jill.
Well, I do and I don't. I think I notice things. I think I'm not working as hard as I used to. I still really, really enjoy it. It's quite intense, but that doesn't mean that I'm working anything like all the time. So I've got children and grandchildren and look after my grandson who's preschool in particular. And it just brings joy. And I think, to go at the speed of children and, like you say,
Yeah.
notice things. I mean, we've just been for a beautiful walk, and the bluebells at the moment are just stunning. And we saw them last week and they weren't in the sun. And then we went back at the weekend and the sun was out, so they were that bit better again. Now, I'd like to think that I've always noticed things like that. I think for me, taking photos, I take a lot of photos, and sometimes that could be instead of noticing things. But I think for me, it makes me notice things because I'm down and I'm looking closely and I'm finding the best angle and so on, which I really, really enjoy. So I think it's about having things that fulfill you as a person, as well as, whatever outside roles you've got, and perhaps
Yes.
experiencing things a bit more intensely.
I think that may be what I mean by slowing down. In that, I mean, you're right. I mean, we live in the country. I've always loved living in the country and seeing the seasons change and all that. But I have
Yeah.
time. I allow myself time now to really focus in on the bluebells. We have beautiful bluebells too. On the kind of
Yeah.
the changes. I walk the dogs every day, and that's great because it allows me to really see the changes from one day to the other in the countryside around me. So that's nice. And volunteering. I volunteer
That's nice.
locally a lot. And then there's WIGO. So lots of purpose, just kind of multifaceted these days. And friendships are the other thing I've really tried to focus in on as well, because I'm not a very regular friend always. So, it'll go 6 months and I'll think, oh, I haven't
Right.
seen. Whereas now, I think we're all
Yeah.
making more effort to see each other and enjoy each other.
Well,
So
friendships take nurturing, don't they? I think
they
that's something
do.
you learn over the years. I mean, just looking back at, I think, who you end up staying in contact with, somebody
Mm.
has had to have made some effort, really. However good friends you are, it's easy to let good friendships slip away. I mean, something I'm looking forward to, and it's interesting in terms of actually turning 70. I mean, my birthday's in May, and I still think a bit in terms of school years. So I'm still in touch with several of my school friends, and I think it's probably helping me psychologically that I'm not the first. So
Yes.
3 of my friends have already.
Oh, so you were a young.
Yeah, I was young within my year group,
Yes.
but I'm going to make the effort to meet up with those London-based friends who I'm still in touch with. There's one friend, Teresa, who I see regularly anyway, but there are others that I haven't seen for years. And I think for us to get together as a sort of special get-together for our turning 70 year, I think for me, it's about perhaps making some opportunities and putting a bit of effort into something that
Yeah.
otherwise the time just kind of slips by and it's all a bit the same.
Mm. And I think when you're working, yeah, months race by, don't they? And you suddenly think, oh, I've not
Yeah, they
seen.
do.
So yes, we've ended up with some. I don't think I've got any old school friends, but my husband does. I've got friends from uni, and then different friends at different points along my sort of working life, and from parents as well, other parents of children who are friends with my children, and that's good. The other thing, of course, that happens is more funerals. Don't mean to be morbid again, Jill. I think it's just the way life's been over
Yes.
the last few weeks. I was thinking that I've lost 2 really good friends over the last 2 years who died.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's hard, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
And
And that's an interesting one in itself, in that my grandma, who I absolutely adored, died when she was 104. And we've got a very small family and there was hardly anybody at her funeral. Whereas if
mm,
she'd died when she was 70, 80, even 90, the church would have been packed because she was a
yes,
very community-based, popular person. And
yeah,
she just outlived everybody,
mm,
I mean, even like the children of some of her friends, dying at quite a reasonable old age.
yes.
It's a mixed blessing, this living forever, I think.
I think it is. I mean, my father-in-law, I mean, he was 99 and a half. In fact, he was a month off his 100th birthday when he died. And he
Ah,
hated his last years because every single friend he'd outlived.
yeah. It's hard.
And he had his family still, and he'd chosen to live in a village community, a kind of older person's village community, and so that was happening again. So he was making friends with people when they moved in, and then they died before him, and so I think it was loss after loss after loss as he went
Yeah,
into his last years.
yeah. I saw. Do you know Brian Dolan at all?
No, tell me.
Professor Brian Dolan. He does a wonderful campaign about encouraging people to stay active as they get older. He's one of these people that I know quite well and have never actually met in person as we get through our kind of social media lives. And Brian posted a birthday card he got, I think it was last week, and it was better worded than this, but it was one less thing to worry about. At least you don't have to worry about dying young now, which absolutely cracked me up. So I think we all need that card. It's
Yeah, we do. We
there's always a silver lining, Sian.
There is. And I do think being aware of aging and of mortality does bring intensity to life.
Yes.
You do appreciate every minute in a way that I didn't when I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
where I was often wishing life away. I'm
Yeah.
definitely not wishing life away now. So
Yeah, you never wish life away, apart from like dental appointments and things like that. I think it's very limited the number of times that you want to wish your life away when you get a bit older. Yeah. Have you got any tips? I mean, I've got one or two favourite things. So I love kitchen dancing and I love exercise snacking.
Oh, great.
And exercise snacking is little bits of exercise that you can do like while the kettle's boiling or just while it would perhaps otherwise be dead time. So
Yeah.
perhaps they're among my tips.
Well, gardening is my big keeping fit thing,
Right, yeah.
which I still do with pain these days, but I still do it. And because I've got time now, I grow things. So we grow a lot of vegetables and fruit. So that's probably, for me, that's my healthiest activity. And bread making.
And gardening's very good for you, isn't it? Very good.
It is very good for you.
Because you're moving all your muscles naturally.
It is, and you're having to kneel down and stand up, and that is painful but necessary.
Yeah, I've got to put my runner beans in yet.
Yeah. And my other tip is kneading. So I make bread, and I've just taken up making pasta with my grandsons, and it's such a good physical thing to do. So, if you're tense or anxious, kneading dough is a really great thing to do. And of course you get nice
Yeah.
food at the end of it. So
That's a good one.
they're a bit mundane, those tips, aren't they?
I don't think they are. I think these days some quite fancy names can be given to things like mindfulness, and the kind of everything becomes a thing, whereas what you've just described, kneading dough with your grandson and the therapeutic effect of that, and anything like that really that just takes your attention, but without being overwhelming or difficult or complicated or any of those things. I think there were a lot of things to learn from, say, our grandparents and how they had to deal with some obviously incredible stresses, through the war and so on. And I don't know. I mean, I sort of look back at some of those kind of calm activities that I did with my grandma, like counting buttons and threading buttons and things like that, that have stuck with me. It's not anything to shout about, but it was just something meaningful to do while we were chatting, or sorting the buttons. I absolutely loved playing with their buttons when I was little. And I try with my grandchildren, some of these more old-fashioned things. And if you can get them in the right mood, the children, they love it too.
They do.
Just doing simple things.
The boys love cooking.
Yeah, my grandchildren love cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do a lot of cooking together, and that's great for them, great for me. We have some really nice chats because they're relaxed and doing something, and I'm doing something, and yeah, it's just easier to talk then. So that's nice.
Yeah, you're just sort of around each other, aren't you, rather than yeah. So it's really nice.
The only other thing I was going to say was that part of the reason I retired when I retired is that I've got a health thing. And there are days when I feel terrible. And what is so good for me is having to
Right.
get up. So I do some early morning volunteering. I
Yeah.
cook breakfasts for people once a week, and that has been so good for me. So I'll wake up feeling absolutely dreadful, crawl into my car, get to where I'm cooking my breakfast. By the end of it, I feel fantastic.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
It's something about, I don't know, not thinking about how you're feeling. Maybe that's another tip to try not to
Yeah.
focus on the bits that are going wrong.
That sounds like a really good tip in that I suppose all of it, you get expressions like pushing through, don't you? But
You
that's
do.
that's what you're doing at that moment because you know that if you can do that, it will have a good outcome for you rather than a negative outcome. Whereas
Yeah.
sometimes you can push through with something that you know you're going to be absolutely knackered. And then that's when you learn to slow down a bit more, I think,
Mm.
because it's just not very wise.
I think, yes, because it's getting that balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So more tips from you, Jill. I need more tips from you.
Well, I was going to say with my work, I know. So I've had 3 experiences of breast cancer, so that's been my kind of thing to live with and to get through. And I mean, I definitely get more hoovered these days than I ever used to. And it can be from something really, really positive. So running a workshop, or I think I put a lot of myself out there. And I used to be able to do it very easily and do back-to-back stuff. And I can't now. So I suppose a tip from me would be, and it's quite ironic the words coming out of my mouth, but pace yourself and
Yeah.
plan things ahead so that you're actually going to enjoy all of them and give yourself space around things, which I have got better at. And I'm
Yeah.
quite lucky that I can pretty much control my work and the amount of work to a large extent, but then you still get inevitably crazy periods. And I think I've told you I've just started writing a book. I think that might be a turning 70 thing.
Yeah.
And I found myself, it's something I've always wanted to do, but when I started actually doing it and like really making some progress, I've always been like a late owl person. And I found myself doing it, you're not interrupted. It's midnight, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock, it's possibly even 3 o'clock. And I used to be able to do that. That's how I worked. I mean, when I was a student, that's how I did my best stuff. And I pay for it now, big time. So
Yeah.
it's sort of learning that I suppose it's the balance between the fact that perhaps you're highly creative at that time and really get a result from it. Is it worth it in terms of if you then pay for it for the next couple of days? It's not.
Um,
But I do find that difficult. So it's not really a tip. It's like what not to do.
well, maybe you just have to trade off, don't you? Yeah,
Yes, you do. Yeah, but I think it's just being realistic, I guess,
it is.
and accepting that things do slow down a bit.
I get quite cross. You know, the anti-ageism campaigns that portray older people bungee jumping and, the kind of big adventure
Right.
images. And I think the challenge
Okay.
is that your body does get, gets things wrong with it. And if you don't learn what you've just talked about, which is that trading, if you think that at 85
Yes.
you ought to be able to bungee jump and fly gliders and or whatever, but actually physically you're struggling with whatever you're struggling with. It's not a helpful anti-ageism message to pretend you're still young, is it?
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't need to pretend you're still young.
No.
And I think the risk of injury to me is I'm actually quite cautious because you realise how serious an injury can be when you're older, and
Yeah.
you don't really want them. So don't do things that are likely to put you in harm's way, really, I think.
Mm.
Although I did go paragliding a few years ago.
Well, that's different if you want to do it.
and that felt very, very safe because I went with Georges, who was absolutely dishy, and we jumped off the top of the mountain in Queenstown, and I felt incredibly safe because this guy knew what he was doing, and he was
Yeah.
switching his camera this way and that way, and he was saying, "Oh, you seem relaxed, Jill," and I was, because it was fun, but it was a very measured risk because I didn't
Mm.
actually feel that was risky. I mean, obviously it could be catastrophic, but it's unlikely with someone who does that all the time. And whereas I don't think I'd skydive.
No.
And my husband's a sort of mountain goat over rocks, and I'm just so timid. So I think we've all got our different challenges and levels of, what you feel competent or safe with, really.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, well, this podcast, thank you so much, Sian, for talking to me. And I think it really builds on the episodes, obviously, that I've already recorded with Angela Catley, which is still a very popular episode, and talking about WIGO, When I Get Old, and her obviously different thoughts on that and complementary thoughts on that. And also particularly the episodes I've recorded with my friend Dorothy Hall.
Yes.
And then subsequently with Dorothy and her older friend Dulcie, specifically about aging and being in your 80s. So my podcast, as you probably gathered, jumps around between all sorts of different topics. But I just think talking to interesting people like yourself, with things to say about interesting topics, people are interested. So what final messages do you think we should leave, Sian? Any lemon light bulb moments for people to think about?
I'm not great on light bulb moment. I think my message to myself is absolutely stuffing the life that is left to me with as many wonderful experiences as I can in a measured way, and taking hand to the fact that I get tired. So it's something about not it's trading off the whole time, I think, for me. And that's fine. And I've had to learn to do that. And that's what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a great final message.
No, I think it is. And I think when I become 70 tomorrow, that's what I'll be listening to.
Yeah. Excellent. And happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the podcast, Sian, and good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Jill.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would be fantastic if you would leave a review and a rating, as well as recommending the Wildcard Hooshes podcast series to anyone who you think might find it interesting. And please subscribe. That way you get to hear when new episodes are available. I have lots more wonderful podcast guests in the pipeline. And don't forget to explore and share previous episodes. So many conversations with amazing people who are courageously sharing their stories and experiences across a very wide range of topics. I tweet as Whose Shoes. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and let's hope that together we can make a difference. See you next time.